Hello guys, my name is Nash. Welcome to Thursday Tales of Terror. TTT. Today we are going to be talking about the Jean Pereira Sinapa case. Now this was one of the cases that baffled Malaysians even up till today because it is still unsolved, and it was revealed that there was a love triangle involved that may have possibly led to the murder and death of Jean Pereira. Could it be betrayal, jealousy, deception? The former Malaysian beauty queen was found brutally murdered with multiple stab wounds to her chest, and back then this case had a lot of rumors and speculations, and we'll dive into that for today's video. Jean Pereira Sinapa. She was born in the year 1948 and hailed from Negeri Sembilan, Malaysia. The gorgeous and charming woman had won titles in several state and national beauty pageants, and so she was known as the Beauty Queen. After quitting the beauty pageant, Jean Pereira went on to become a teacher, and those who knew her said that she was very dedicated to her job. She met this man who was a chemist named S. Sinapa. They got married and they had 3 beautiful children together. Unfortunately though, on New Year's Eve in 1978, Jean and her husband went out to celebrate and usher in the new year, met with a road accident at Jalan 222 Petaling Jaya. Sadly, Jean's husband didn't make it and passed away. Jean, however, managed to escape with minor injuries, and this happened just months before she was going to be murdered. After the passing of her husband, Jean and her 3 young children went to live with her mother-in-law. Also, living in the same household was her late husband's brother, S. Kartigesu, her brother-in-law. They must be quite close and comfortable to be able to be living in the same house, because from where I come from, people don't really like to live with their in-laws because it is very uncomfortable. They would rather much prefer to live with their own family even after getting married. Better still, if they're able to get their own apartment, I think they would rather much get their own apartment. But because from where I come from, getting your own apartment is just so damn expensive. But yeah, from the way I see it, Jean Pereira seemed to be quite close and comfortable with her in-laws. So Jean and her kids were settling down, trying to get used to a life without a father, without her husband, but not for long when another tragedy struck again. This time round, the poor kids lost their mother. On the night of April 6, 1979, 2 Malaysian airline employees who were passing the Subang International Airport at the Federal Highway pulled over when they found S. Kartigesu, then aged 37, lying face down on the floor, unconscious, next to the car. It was at a secluded area. Jean was however found dead and still strapped in the front passenger seat. She was brutally murdered and had multiple stab wounds to her chest. According to report, she was stabbed 10 times in the chest. The prime suspect of the crime was Jean's brother-in-law, S. Kartigesu, even though he was found unconscious. He told the authorities that he and Jean were returning to Klang, where they lived, from a night out when he needed to pull over to relieve himself at a secluded area. And that was when he was knocked unconscious by someone unknown from the back, and he had no knowledge of who and how Jean was murdered. Now, this statement was highly questionable because there were no obvious injuries on him, and police found no traces or smell of urine at that location. Why was Jean so viciously stabbed, but Kartigesu was relatively unharmed? Former Senior Investigation Officer Datuk Ramli Yusof, who was in charge of the case back then, was quoted as saying, "When I arrived at the scene, I was surprised to find a man lying face down but still breathing. He kept murmuring something which I could not understand. I decided to send him to University Hospital for treatment." So Kartigesu was rushed to the hospital while Jean's body was sent for an autopsy. The most bizarre thing was that a doctor who had first examined Kartigesu said that there was no sign of any trauma or injury to the head that would have explained him being unconscious. Also, there were 2 witnesses, Ramli Othman and Abdul Wahad Abu Amin, who happened upon the scene at different times. They gave their testimony, and it appeared as if Kartigesu may have shifted his position while supposedly unconscious. No valuables were taken, ruling out robbery as a motive. Could Kartigesu really be the killer? Now, just a little background on Kartigesu. Kartigesu was a psychology lecturer. Many people who knew him before would describe him as a patient and kind man. They would comment on how gentle his mannerisms were. But the odds were against him. Kartigesu confessed that he and Jean had been in a romantic relationship. Now, this comes as a surprise because it it has only been 4 months since Jean's husband passed away, and I don't think it's common to be dating your late brother's wife, but Katigesu was already talking of marrying Jean. There was one article that reported that Katigesu had actually been lasting after his beautiful sister-in-law, but was unable to act on it since she was happily married to his brother S. Sinapa. But after the unfortunate accident that took his brother's life, Katigesu wasted no time in pursuing Jean and asked for her hand in marriage. During the course of the trial, allegations surfaced that Jean had been having an extramarital relationship with a doctor named Narada Warnasuriya. He was a medical practitioner from Sri Lanka. Jean had actually met Dr. Narada during a function at the YMCA in Brickfields, Kuala Lumpur, sometime in 1978. During the investigation, Katigesu led the police to his house in Kelang and they found a bag of love letters, about 19 of them. Some of the letters were from Jean's secret lover, Dr. Narada, and the others were written to Dr. Narada by Jean. These letters were evidence that was brought up in court and suggested that Jean had cheated on her then husband, S. Sinapa, when he was still alive. The police had actually wanted Dr. Narada to testify in court. With the help of the Sri Lanka government and the police, they managed to track down the doctor, but however, he didn't want to testify nor appear in court. Dr. Narada himself had a press statement issued later to say that nothing he had to say would help in the case anyway. To him, his evidence would have brought more pain to the family. In one of the letters, Dr. Narada discussed plans to marry Jean, including converting to Islam so that he could have more than one wife. So I'm assuming from this that Dr. Narada was actually married when he was in a relationship with Jean. Now, this led the authorities to highly believe that Katigesu may have been jealous and angry, especially after reading this part. According to the investigation officer at that time, he said he remembered the content of every one of those letters and they were very intimate and it is not proper to publicize them for public consumption. It was also heard in court that Katigesu held a grudge and was waiting for the right time to take revenge. But there were also other theories circulating around that made sense as well. Some people believe that Katigesu had wanted to seek revenge for his late brother as Jean was found to be cheating on him too when he was alive based on the letters, while some believe that it was just pure jealousy on Katigesu's end and he felt hurt and cheated by what Jean did to him. These allegations were made believable when Jean's relative Bandhu Landa Jayatilake testified that 10 days after the murder, he was at Katigesu's house when the police came to question. According to him, when the police left, Katigesu got agitated and lost his cool and ranted about Jean. Katigesu said, "That bitch did not deserve to live." With this and the letters, the prosecution convincingly argued that the mild-mannered Katigesu had snapped and killed Jean while overcome by jealous rage. Police arrested him a few weeks after the incident and he was charged with Jean's murder at the Kuala Lumpur High Court, the first case in the country to be charged with circumstantial evidence and extrajudicial confession. So I'm just going to explain a little bit. Circumstantial evidence are not direct evidence, so if I'm not wrong, based on the letters as well as how there was no injury found on his head or trauma to have caused him to be unconscious, are evidences to support that he may have been the murderer. An extrajudicial confession, on the other hand, is a confession that is made out of court and not part of a judicial examination or investigation. This could be referring to Jayatilake's statement when he told the court about what he had heard from Katigesu, that the bitch don't deserve to live. Now, the defense, on the other hand, relied heavily on Katigesu's good character. They tried to portray him as a gentleman who was devoted to his family. They stood by Katigesu's statement, of which he said that he was attacked from behind by unknown assailants who had gone on to kill Jean. They further questioned why there was no blood splatter at all on Katigesu if he was indeed the killer, and why was the murder weapon not found at the scene. So a few questions to ponder for this case. Who would kill Jean? Why would they kill Jean? And why is it so convenient that it was at that moment that Katigesu had to relieve himself? Why didn't they kill Katigesu along too? Who else did Jean offended? Because from what I've gathered, the only person with a motive is Katigesu himself. The only thing that I could think of is that Katigesu had killed Jean himself and he disposed the murder weapon somewhere else. But this doesn't make any sense too, because if you stab someone, and in this case 10 times in the chest, it's bound to be messy and bloody. I don't know if it's possible to stab someone that much without having blood splattering on you. Is there a technique that I do not know of? But I honestly don't think it's possible, and this all happened in the tiny confines of a vehicle. My other theory is that this whole thing seems pretty much premeditated to me. Could Katigesu have hired an assailant? It seems highly possible if it's this theory because that would explain why there was no blood splatter on Katigesu and the missing murder weapon. It's unfortunate that there were no witnesses as to what happened because it's just so bizarre. Police took close to 4 months to complete the investigations and the murder trial ran for 38 days with 58 witnesses being called. Katigesu was arrested on April 26. At that time, Malaysia had a jury system, and by a vote of 5-2, Katigesu was found guilty of the murder and sentenced to death on May 9 that year. Now, here's the interesting part of the story. After 2 years of being in jail and awaiting his death sentence, Katigesu made an appeal. However, when Katigesu made an appeal, Jayatilake suddenly retracted his story, saying that he had not told the truth on the stand. Jayatilake said that he actually never heard Katigesu shouting that bitch did not deserve to live. He told the judge that he was forced to lie in court to ensure that Katigesu was found guilty. The judge immediately took Jayatilake's shocking confession into consideration and freed Katigesu from all charges. Jayatilake was sentenced to 10 years in prison for perjury, but the man later died in prison 2 years later. He was still a young man in his 30s. It was even speculated that he knew he was dying when he changed the story. It was never revealed to the public what exactly happened to Jayatilake while he was serving time in prison, but I think there could be a few possibilities. 1, he could have died from an illness. 2, someone could have killed him inside the prison because he offended someone. 3, he could have committed suicide. I honestly could not think of anything else other than this 3. On 20th May 1981, Katigesu walked away from jail as a free man after spending 2 years, 1 month, and 4 days in prison. After his release from prison, Katigesu was said to be happily married and living in Kelang, Selangor, but there are no current reports on his whereabouts now. To this day, the case has remained unsolved. Back then, technology wasn't very advanced, so they didn't have the forensic tools, and DNA testing simply did not exist. But at that time, one of Malaysia's most famous police dog was put on the case. The murder of the beauty queen was shocking to the nation, and it was quite possibly the most sensational murder trial in the country. Jean Pereira was well known at the time. She was vivacious with striking eyes, as some would describe. Now, just a fun fact, an interesting story to share about this case which not many people were aware of was that Katigesu and Botak Chin met in prison. They were on death row at the same time, and there was a lot of public interest in their case. For those of you who don't know Botak Chin is another case story that's pretty interesting. He was often regarded as modern-age Robin Hood because he and his friend were known for conducting armed robberies which in a few cases involved a huge amount of cash. He was respected in a way because some say that he would share the cash from the robberies with the poor. He was unfortunately executed on the 11th of June 1981. Despite this Jean Pereira case happening many years ago, the murder case continues to fascinate. Jean's murder was documented by the Crime and Investigation Network in collaboration with the National Film Development Board in 2012, and the documentary Jean Pereira, The Beauty Queen Murder was aired on Astro Channel 732 on December 20th, 2012. The producers tried to interview Jean's brother and Jean's daughter, who is a lawyer, but understandably both of them declined and expressed that they wish to stay away from any publicity pertaining to the tragedy. There was also a book published that was written by Alex Josie titled The Murder of a Beauty Queen that's based on this true story. There are still so many discussions regarding this case. Opinions remain divided as to who Jean Pereira's murderer actually was. Was the right man convicted and then wrongly freed? What exactly happened with Jayatilake? Why did he change his statement and how did he die? So many questions but no answers. It's so frustrating. Let me know what are your thoughts. We can have an open discussion down in the comment box below. And so we have come to an end to today's story. I'm sorry, that's my cat. Okay, I should do the closing with my cat. If you like the way I tell stories, please give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and share this video around. It'll mean the world to me. I'll see you next Thursday with another video. Bye!